Good afternoon. This video is going to describe to you the morphemic CAMEL Designer, that is the tool responsible for fraud, application modeling, and execution language for the modeling environment Modelio in the morphemic project. The CAMEL Designer is an open source module for graphically creating, editing, and exporting CAMEL models in XML format. The CAMEL DSL is a domain-specific language that allows users to specify multiple aspects and that are related to multi-cross-cloud applications that are the domains of deployment, requirements, metrics, scalability, security, organization, and execution. This fully-fledged cloud application modeling is adopted in other European projects, morphemic, of course, then Passage, Cloud Socket, and also Melodic. The modeling tool Modelio has been chosen with its 25 years of history and its many other modules that are available. The modeling tool is available as open source on modelio.org, also as a commercial version in Modelio Soft. We are following a Modelio development process where we are extending the UML meta model, and we are basing this with our Modelio knowledge and, of course, the knowledge of the CAMEL DSL. And we include in the Modelio modeling environment commands for the creation, for the views, and for property pages for editing to facilitate our user life. We can create custom commands, we can have import, export of this model, and of course, we can deal with many multiple examples. You can see in here a graphical view of how the Modelio will look like before our demo. We will have a model explorer, a property page, the tools that we have, and the many diagrams. And we will go through it with the different pages that we have, and we can also see some case studies that are using this tool. We will see that we can set in this modeling environment specific regional country where we want our cloud application to be deployed, for example, in Poland, or some specific requirement of each component. For example, we may desire 5 as minimum number of cores or 2 as the number of gigabytes for the RAM. We can also set some constraints like the application average availability that can be, well, quite high, 99.999%. We can see in here that we can design component and the link between them, and we can design the different requirements that we can have, and we can define in this specific context the application availability. In this example, we are able to set, and you can see in here the corresponding XMI, the latency between the two different components as most 5 milliseconds, and the throughput that is at least 0.1 Gbps. And of course, we can set the region, and we can set the specific constraints that we have on our RAM or on our cores. This nice cloud application modeling is available on GitHub, and you can use it and deploy it on modelio.org. We are going to see right now the work process. So you can always check our morphemic cloud website for all the information on the team that contributed to this work and to the knowledge that we have built inside this module. You can see in here the Modelio R&D GitHub repository, where we are keeping the research team results that are open source. One of them is, of course, our CAMEL Designer. That is a Modelio extension for the CAMELing Modeling Designer model conceived to design cloud application and using our CAMEL DSL. You can go through it, find the source code that we have, and download, especially download the last version of our JM DAC. This is the module that you will have to deploy on your Modelio open source. You can find it. You have all the instruction, of course, on how to install it on our GitHub. You have to install Java 8, and you have to install Modelio 4.1. I have already opened the page in here. You can have our open source Modelio GitHub in here with all the information for you. And you can see and check out our open source community in here and directly download, for example, in my case, the Windows version in here. Once you have your Modelio installed, you will have an environment like this one. In this case, you can create a new project. Let's call it CAMEL Video End of February, because today is the last day of February. The Modelio tool is going to create our CAMEL model. And once the process will be over, we will be able to open it and to deploy the specific JMDAC that we want to add. So we will go in here and in our configuration for modules, we are going to add the specific CAMEL Designer. So I will deploy this specific Modelio module within my project that is called CAMEL Video End of February. And once that is done, it is démarré, gratuito, and compatible. We can start exploring what this environment offers us. The first things that we can do is, of course, to explore the CAMEL Designer menu. In here, we can create a CAMEL model. With the CAMEL model, we have a very nice palette of choices where we can create different elements that can describe our cloud application. We have talked before about, for example, the organization model, or for example, the location model, where we have mentioned the deployment done in Poland. In here, we can decide to give further detail on the region and on the cloud location, and using our property CAMEL to give more information on that. We can go on with this process and include other elements, like, of course, the deployment type model, or we can add our deployment instance model. Very important for our work in Morphemic is the metric type model, where we can define some metric for our cloud application. And of course, the requirement model, where we can describe different requirements. We can use this palette to have some resource requirement, some different image requirement, some service label objective, and many, many different other requirements. We will go through it, and we can define them in the CAMEL palette, of course, and we can give more detail on that. And then we are also capable to export this nice model in a single file. In here, we will call it CAMEL model 2802-2022. The model will be directly saved, and we will find it in this folder. In here, we will find the information. For this, sorry, that's in here. You have all the models. And of course, I pick the right one, this one, CAMEL model 2802-2022. We can open it, and we can find that we have added this certain number of requirements. We have added the deployment model and the metric model. Of course, this XML is not very rich because we have not included many information. We can go to these icon use cases that has been generated before, and look at some information, some nice generation for another of our case study that is provided by icon. To do that, not from the XMI, but from the real model, we will go opening the icon use case model. I will close the current project, and I will open this icon use case project. In here, you have a specific morphemic end user environment. And in here, you can see that we have only used these specific diagrams for deployment, for requirement, and for metrics in quite a kind of big numbers. We can see in here a real case study where we have all the components that are taking part of this cloud application. We will not go too much through what this application is about, but we will show that with the Modelio environment, we can include the starting command, we can include the download command, the configure command, and we can specify the operating system. For the other component, we will do the same, and we can include other information that can be very important to use the component. For what regards the requirement, we also have some specific information, like, for example, the fact that we are using Ubuntu, and all the requirements that the application may need. For what regards the metrics, all the metrics that have been necessary for this specific case study. We can open the diagram. And also in this case, we can go to the CAMEL property to know more. The export in this case, it will be much more richer because, of course, the model is much more complete. So in here, we will call icon 2802. And in our specific icon use case, we will directly find our model where we can see all the metrics that have been included. So this is how our products looks like. And you can have a look at it and download it, as I said, from our research, Modelio research team GitHub. And of course, have a look at our Modelio open source community to check it. I also have some reference for you, of course, the Modelio open source community, some information on the CAMEL DSL, our Morphemic project website, our CAMEL Designer GitHub, and of course, if you want to have a look at the DSL, also the direct link in Bitbucket. So with this, I thank you very much to have listened to this video, and please don't hesitate to write to me if you have any question, and enjoy Modelio and the rest of the work from this great team that is Morphemic. So thank you.